Zenless Zone Zero has never failed us with the creativities of the weapon, like this huge freaking garden scissors with the Allen Joe, a briefcase shotgun that could fire a black hole, and the pandas with the hat that made out of wok. Like this guy is literally cooking during the fight, caramelized the shit out of his enemy, and now we got this kung fu tiger who fight the enemy with the freaking popcorn machine. And yes, Chinese popcorn is a real thing. Back when I was studying in university in Taiwan, I actually see one of those popping on the street, even though I never actually bought it though. But it does consider as a traditional food in Taiwan. Just let me show you the videos. Well, I also learned about it as I look into it, but apparently Chinese popcorn is made out of rice. But you gotta soak it and dry it before you put into the popcorn machine. So you kind of wanna pre-process the rice. And after they put into it, apparently they heat it up with the compressor. They even have the pressure indicator. And after the heated is right, they just literally pops it out. And it's gonna be looking like this. And then they mix it with the syrups and put it on this metal plate and wait for it to dry. Well, up to this point, I thought I never ate it, but I actually ate it a lot. I just never know that it's the popcorn. I feels like I'm one of those dumbass who thought watermelon is triangle shaped and never learned that it's actually ball shaped. And it's usually my relative and parents brought this popcorn back, and I just ate it without realizing how it was made. It's a pretty huge discovery for me, not gonna lie. I just got culturally shocked from my own culture. Now let's go over TLDR with Ju Fufu. Ju Fufu is probably the most passive agent, very close behind Astra. You literally don't need to do anything at the start of the battle, and she would do everything by her own. So basically what she does, she gives 20% to 50% critical damage, depends how much attacks you have. She gives extra 20% chain attack damage and 40% ultimate damage. So for sure, Yixuan is gonna be the one who benefit from her buff the most. Then follow with Evelyn and Hugo, who would benefit tremendously because their sources of DPS are coming from chain attack. And no, you don't have to worry about the uptime. It lasts for 30 seconds every time when you activate it. She also gives 1000 maximum decibel to the team. And your attackers and Rupture use the ultimate, they would gain extra 300 decibel. And what it does is that it makes your ultimate so much easier to manage. But before you get scammed by MiHoYo, I would like to tell you the brutal fact. If you pull for Ju Fufu, you're not playing Ju Fufu. You're playing this popcorn machine. Wei, cause he's gonna be the one at the front line decimating the enemy, doing all the hard work, so that you could pet Ju Fufu like a cat behind the scene. Now let's learn about how to Ju Fufu. Well, it's actually just remember to use your skill and ultimate when it's available and then swap her out. And that already does 90% of the work because your popcorn machine is more reliable than the R2-D2 and the Jarvis. But yeah, let's learn a little bit more about her mechanics. Her mechanics is revolving around the might and the momentum. Basically, might is this special bar up here, just like any other characters. And every time when Wei hits the enemy, you're gonna get 20 points of might. You would get 80 from the skill and hundreds from ultimate. And every time when you reach 100 of might, which you could see at the middle of the bar, it counts at 200 of might. When you max it out, it would consume hundreds of might and perform this special chain attack by your popcorn machine when you swap her out. And you could know that from this big ass text fire that the shot is fired. It is count as aftershock, just like Anby and Trigger, and it's also counts as chain attacks, and it's also when all of your buff kicks in. What it does is that it's gonna deal a loss of days. So yeah, so make sure that you max your chain attacks and ultimate, and it's not gonna activate it when Ju Fufu is on field. But you could activate it by dodge and hold attack, but you gotta do it with another key mechanics, which is momentum, and without the momentum, it's not gonna do anything. But before we talk about momentum, there's this really cool tips that I wanna share. If you swap to Ju Fufu during the special chain attacks, you could do a really quick stun, and the other key key mechanics is momentum, you would get 3 momentum from the skill, 6 momentum from the ultimate, and 1 momentum for every 10 seconds you defense assist the enemy. What it does is that every time when you perform special chain attack, she will spin herself in fire and bumps into the enemy, and every hit she bumps into the enemy would consume 1 momentum and give you 25 might. So you can roughly translate it as an ultimate would give you 150 of might, the skill would give you 25, and parrying would give you 25. It's not gonna give you immediately, but it's gonna give you over time while dealing some extra days and damage. So just make sure that you use your skill and ultimate so that you could refill the might frequently. And you could also self-activate it when you have momentum. You just press dodge and hold attacks. You would also get the same effects as the automatic one, which is consume 1 momentum and gain 25 of might. You could also do it without the momentum, but you are gonna deal a really ass amounts of days and damage. But in practice, you wanna use this whole dodge attack right after skill or ultimate and then just swap off, cause this popcorn machine is gonna home down the enemy by itself while being literally on fire. Apparently in the JP side of testing, Ju Fufu seemed to be overkilled with the Yixuan. The test is being done with Mindscape Zero with signature with all characters. It seems like Yixuan, Ju Fufu, and Qingyi is actually the best team, and I've talked about how Qingyi is really good against with the Miasma Shield, and follow with Trigger and Pandas. These 3 teams could get 65,000. Nicole is also surprisingly good, even though she is totally useless with her 40% defense shred, but she could mace up with the 25% ether damage, and follow with Caesar with 60k. I hope the numbers gonna help you to determine whether you're gonna get Ju Fufu or not. If your goal is to clear the Shiyu defense and getting the 9 star in the Deadly Assault, I would probably pull for her on rerun. And in this test in the double stunner team comp, Ju Fufu is using the swing jazz because it could give 15% damage increase every time when she used chain attack, I mean her popcorn machine, and let the other stunner use King of Summit. So yes, double stunner is better than you think. But before we talk about should you pull her or not, I would like to talk a little bit about the team flexibilities. And team flexibilities is a really appealing factor when you are pulling for support or pretty much any characters. Like Miyabi and Astra both has really high team flexibilities. But in my opinion, if they are not like the best in slot for a loss of team, then I think it's probably not worth it to pull for the team flexibilities. And I am talking about stunner support like Caesar, Trigger, and the upcoming Ju Fufu. While they are performing really well in a loss of team, they don't have a loss of best in slot team. And this is especially true with Caesar. Unless you are grinding hard and having a lot of fun in the Endless Tower, I would generally not recommend pulling for Caesar, even though she has very high team flexibilities, because she's not capable of breaking power ceiling. While Trigger and Ju Fufu does have some best in slot team. Like for Trigger, it would be Anbi Zero, Yanagi, and the Harumasa. And yes, I have tested Trigger with Harumasa with the Qingyi Harumasa. Both are using Qingyi signature, and Trigger with Harumasa just performing consistently better noticeably, at least in my own skill levels. While Ju Fufu, the obvious one would be Yixuan, followed with Aveline and Hugo, because both Aveline and Hugo could capitalize the 20% chain attack buff, and Ju Fufu would be able to perform decently with pretty much any other DPS, but you wouldn't be seeing as much improvement as the best in slot that I've just pointed out. And with that characteristic, the better your account, the more you're gonna pay attention to make the decision to pull on flexible agent like Ju Fufu. Every time when a support is released, you must own or have the plan to pull for the DPS that synergize well with this specific support, because the game is designed it that way. So in my opinion, the team flexibilities of a characters is not gonna be valuable unless you are pulling for the best in slot team. On the other hand, the niche stunner like the Lighter, who is only restricted to the ice and fire, he could actually outperform support like Astra when he's paired with Aveline. Like this is the older lighter numbers that I've get, Evelyn Astra lighter team got 54k on the Pompeii, while lighter Lucy got 46k, Astra Nicole got 43k and 41k. Of course, the test is being done with Mindscape Zero with signature, so it's generally better to pull for lighter if you have fire and ice attackers, because he got the buff that could break the power ceiling, and therefore made this kind of niche support got more value. And I do think that this is the direction that Zenless Zone Zero is going. Like, the more team flexibilities a stunner support have, the more trade-off they're gonna get, and the more narrow the team comp that a support or stunner have, the more potential they're gonna have to break the power ceiling. But what I like about the flexible support like Ju Fufu, Trigger, and Caesar is that if you're a waifu pools, casual player, or a new player who are pooling without the best in slot DPS, their experience in the game wouldn't be tanked as much. They would still perform at the high levels in pretty much any other team, aka they are very casual friendly, even though they could be baity for the older account. And I think this kind of design is definitely intentional, but I think it's a pretty good one because it provides a really huge safety net to the casual side. So how is that affects your pools? And in my channel, I am the advocator of the waifu over meta, so yeah, if you like her, go ahead. Mindscape 6 her. Solo Deadly Assault with that. I don't even know what her Mindscape 6 does, but her Mindscape 1 seems to be busted. It's probably at the same levels with the Trigger's Mindscape 1, one of the most powerful Mindscape 1 in the game. And yeah, her Mindscape 1 is significantly better than her signature, and she's actually really good without signature, and that makes her a really good agent for new player. But from pool value perspective, if you don't have Yixuan, Evelyn, or Hugo, then it's probably an easy skip. But if you have Yixuan, but you also have Trigger or Qingyi, then you are not gonna see a lot of improvement if you pull for Ju Fufu, but it's gonna be a high value pull if you don't have stunner like Trigger or Qingyi. And as for the Evelyn, if you don't have lighter, or you don't want to play lighter with Evelyn for some reason, then she's gonna have a really high value, but you don't want to expect her to top lighter. And as for Hugo, it's the same. If you don't have lighter, then yes, Ju Fufu is gonna be pretty good. Don't forget to like and sub, and see ya guys.